Afternoon, the leader of the Democratic Alliance, Mmusi Maimane, says the allegations linking him to Steinhoff's chief executive officer are a smear campaign against him. A Report newspaper claiming at the weekend that Maimane drove a rental car donated to him by Marcus Jooste. This was before the municipal election in 2016. Maimane allegedly initially refused to return the vehicle even after he was warned about possible reputational damage to him and his party. That's our lead story this lunchtime. Reporter Govan Whittles is all over it. Govan, good afternoon to you. So what has the DA said in response to these allegations?
Well, the official comment from Mmusi Maimane spokesperson Solly Malatsi is that the vehicle donated by Marcus Jooste in the run-up to the 2016 local government elections was used for DA campaigning. And Mmusi Maimane, of course, going one step further, saying that as soon as the scandal around Steinhoff and the conduct by Marcus Jooste was exposed, he wrote a letter and then returned the vehicle. Of course, this is now a subject of debate, with some in the party saying that he opened himself up to a potential conflict. And this comes just after Mmusi Maimane was also forced to answer questions about a house that he had rented from one of his longtime friends in Claremont, and that he declared on his register in Parliament. But at least one senior DA MP, that's Mike Waters, has said that the DA has a responsibility to hold its leader, Mmusi Maimane, to account in the same way that it holds the ANC to account. But Solly Malatsi saying that everything was above board, and he believes that Mmusi Maimane's actions vindicate him from any wrongdoing. Let's take a look now at what he had to say.
The fact of the matter is that Steinhoff made a donation in the form of a vehicle to the Democratic Alliance. That vehicle was then used by the party leader for campaigning in the Western Cape and for fulfillment of his duties as a parliamentary leader. When the revelations about Steinhoff came to the fore, the party had a discussion about the possible risks of that donation, and it was rightfully decided that in light of those revelations, it would be inappropriate to retain the vehicle. Hence, it was subsequently returned to the donor. Given that the donation was to the organization, at the time it was felt that it wasn't necessary to declare it.
And Govan Whittles, Mmusi Maimane himself adamant that this is part of a smear campaign.
Yes, Jeremy, he's viewed the latest revelations and questions around this vehicle as a follow-up to the questions about how he was renting the house in Claremont. And interestingly, the DA's Federal Executive Committee met after the revelations about the house were brought into the public space, and decided that Mmusi Maimane's explanation of why he was renting the house was satisfactory, and there was no need to take any further actions. But now, with the revelations around the vehicle that he used for DA campaigning purposes, it seems as though they're not satisfied in the way that he conducted himself. But of course, one political analyst pointing to the elephant in the room, and that is the DA's loss of at least 2% of its support in the 2018 elections. Despite them growing their support in the 2016 elections, in the period when he had the vehicle, he's now being questioned about this. And this political analyst, Ibrahim Fakir, saying that it possibly points to internal battles within the DA. Let's have a look at what Ibrahim had to say.
The question is not what was Maimane thinking, the question is what was the party thinking, because the donation was made to the political party, and the party, and all parties, would use materials that are donated to them, whether it be posters, T-shirts, in this case a vehicle, that we use in the campaign trail. Now, isn't it interesting that those was given in the lead up to the 2016 local government elections, when the DA actually performed relatively well, even though they had to do so in partnership in certain metros with the EFF. But no one complained at that time. They only complained now after the 2019 election. So it's clearly obvious that this is internal wranglings inside the DA, unhappiness with Maimane's leadership, unhappiness with the poor showing in the 2019 elections, in which the DA shaved almost 2.5 percentage points of his overall support, election on election. And it's clearly coming out of that kind of fractiousness inside the DA, not only because of the sustained loss of the DA in the election, but also because of perceptions of weak leadership on behalf of Maimane. So the question is not so much purely about Maimane. Of course, it's detrimental to him, but clearly the facts of the matter are at dispute. They have returned the vehicle. The party is responsible for what kind of resources it uses in election campaign, and it's not purely the party's or the leader's responsibility. Now, it's also equally true that because he didn't personally benefit, this was not his benefit, he has no compunction to declare this in the register of members' interests. Inadvertently, when he did record something in the member of register's interest, something he was not meant to actually declare. That's the home that he was living in Cape Town.
Political commentator Ibrahim Fakir talking to my colleague Jane Dutton. Back to you, Govan Whittles, in the newsroom. So if Mmusi Maimane then is on the back foot, what do we know about the friction that Mr. Fakir refers to?
Well, it all stems from the 2019 elections, Jeremy, and what we know from speaking to some senior sources within the DA is that there are two dominant factions emerging, and these would be the hardline liberals, who are perceived to be conservatives, and these progressives, who are perceived to be allies of Mmusi Maimane. And we've established that they're preparing to rally around Mmusi Maimane to offer him their support, but one of Maimane's allies has described this as a battle for the soul of the DA, and saying that it ultimately stems down to the loss of support to the Freedom Front Plus and the fear that the DA is driving its traditional voter base towards the Freedom Front Plus and may end up losing even more support.
All right, political reporter Govan Whittles.